Hi everyone, my name is Brittany of BrittanyJJones.com. In this new simplicity tutorial, I will be walking you through how to sew a bodice and lining continuous side seam stitch. Let's get started. To sew a bodice and lining continuous side seams, I'm going to be using pattern pieces from Simplicity 1507. I'll be using the bodice front as well as the bodice back. The first thing that you want to do is stitch your bodice front and back together at the shoulder seams. You can see here I've stitched my fabric and I also stitched my lining. So go ahead and stitch your main fabric front and back at the shoulder seams as well as your lining. Next, with right sides together, we're going to pin our lining to our bodice. We're going to match up the centers as well as our shoulder seams. So with right sides facing, let's go ahead and lay it like so. We are going to pin our neckline edge as well as our armhole openings. So go ahead and grab your pins, match up our notches, pin along the neckline edge as well as the armhole openings now. All right, now that you have it all pinned, let's go ahead and stitch the neckline edge as well as the armholes using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that we have it sewn, we can go ahead and trim down our seam and clip our curves. All right, now that we have trimmed and clipped into our seams, now we can go ahead and do some understitching as far as we can go. So with understitching, you want to make sure that you have your seams going toward your lining, and then we are going to stitch close to the seam. So again, for understitching, make sure that you have your seam allowance going toward your lining, and then we're going to be stitching close to the seam, catching only the lining and the seam allowance. So let's go ahead and do that now. Again, we're going to understitch as far as we can go. We probably won't be able to get all the way up here along the armhole, but just go as far as you can go all the way around the garment. Let's do our understitching now. All right, now that you have done your understitching, I just did understitching right here along the front armholes for the demo. But again, just make sure that you also do around the neckline edge and along the back as well, as far as you can go with your understitching. And so now we can go ahead and turn our lining to the inside. And to do that, we're going to pull each of the backs through the shoulder. So I'm just going to reach in here. And just start pulling the backs through the shoulders just to turn everything right side out. Same thing to this side. Go through the shoulders and pull the backs through. Once you have it pulled through, let's go ahead and give everything a really good press. All right, once you have given it a press, everything should look like this. This is just a close-up here, and the understitching really does help everything to fold in nicely. So make sure that you do understitching again as far as you can. That's really just gonna help that lining stay toward the inside of the garment. The next thing that we want to do is we want to open out our lining. So just lift up the lining, open them up on the front as well as the back. I'm going to lift up the back as well. And we are going to match up those underarm seams. And we can pin this in place. So I'm going to match up this underarm seam here. Pin that in place. Pin the lining together. And pin the main fabric together as well. Should have transferred some notches. You can match those up and pin in place. Pin the other side the same way, and then you can go ahead and stitch this in one continuous stitch using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once you have it sewn, we can trim down our seam allowance. And then just turn our lining back down to the inside like so, and give everything a final press. Just pull the lining back down toward the inside. You can trim away any loose threads. All right, after you give it one final press, your side seam should look like this, nice and clean. This is what it looks like on the outside main fabric, and this is what it looks like along the inside here. After you have given it a press, you have just sewn a bodice and lining and a continuous side seam stitch. And now you can move on with the next steps in the construction of your garment. Well, that is all for the video. I really do hope that you all enjoyed it. If you would like to see more simplicity tutorials, there's a link down in the description box where you can watch the full playlist. Until next time, blessings everyone. Bye.